This particular course we were talking about sales management, and we basically talked about the objectives of sales management. And today we'll be talking about the scope of sales management. Many a times you see this kind of a question appearing in the question paper, wherein you have to write about the scope of the subject. So herein we'll be talking about the scope of sales management. So what all things are covered by sales management? This is what basically the scope word means. So what all is done in sales management? That is what we are going to discuss today. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to design the sales force. What do we mean by this? We have been talking about sales management being the management of personal selling force. So a company has personal selling force, the sales force, and they have to manage that particular sales force. And the first thing which you have to do is you have to design the sales force. And within the design there are two things which we'll be talking about in more detail later on. The first thing is the structure of the sales force. For example, I'll give you just a brief example. The sales force could be based on the territorial or area structure. Let me give you an example. For example, there is a consumer durable company which is selling consumer durables. So they might be having sales managers taking care of a particular area or a particular territory. So that is the territorial structure or the area based structure. So this could be one example of a structure. Then there are other types of structure. For example, another type of structure is basically customer based structure, wherein the sales force is divided into different groups according to the kind of customer that they are catering to. So some of the sales force might be catering to retail customers. This happens a lot in banks. So some of the salespersons are catering only to retail customers. Retail customers are those who are going to buy in small lots. And then there could be some other salesperson who are taking care of the bigger customers, right? Who are taking care of the industrial customers, who are taking care of the business customers, right? So, and then there could be another portion, there could be another set of salespeople who are taking care of the government customers. So it could be the state departments, state government departments, or the central government departments. So this would be called the customer based sales force structure. So one group of salespersons is catering only to the retail customers. The other one is catering to the wholesale customers or to the business buyers or to the industrial buyers. And the third set is catering to the government sector, the buyers in the government. It could be the state government or the central government. For example, if you talk about Maruti Suzuki, let's say Maruti Suzuki has been selling some products to the Indian government also, to the defense forces also. For example, Gypsy is one Maruti Suzuki brand which is purchased by the Indian Army also. For that they will have separate set of sales force, separate set of salespersons. They will only be dealing with the government. Then for retail customers like us, they can have different set of salespersons. For wholesale segment also, they can have different set of salespersons. So this is what structure is all about, and we'll be talking about this in more detail in the next unit. Now another aspect which is part of the Salesforce design is the Salesforce size. What is the appropriate size of the Salesforce? And it would depend on the extent of demand that your product has in the market, and on the quantity which is demanded by every single customer in the market. So depending on that, you will decide what would be your Salesforce size. And not only this, you would also have to take care of the anticipated demand, future demand. What would be the demand 1 year down the line? Because if there is a sudden spike in demand 1 year down the line, I cannot straight away recruit the salespersons. So I have to plan for that period when I'm expecting a spike in the demand and increase in demand. For that I have to plan right today, and I would start expanding my sales force. So sales force size also has to be taken care of, and this is another aspect of the Salesforce design. Now let us talk about another area which is taken care of by sales management, and that is determining the salesperson expertise. What do we mean by this? See, salespersons can have expertise in a particular product. So for example, there could be salesperson who are selling only and only commercial vehicles, for example the cars, the the trucks and the buses. And then there could be different set of salesperson who would be selling only and only passenger vehicles, the smaller cars, right? So this is what we have done basically here. What we have done basically is we have said that there would be certain salesperson who are experts in selling commercial vehicles, the trucks and the buses, and the other set is an expert in selling passenger vehicles, that is the small cars. So this is what we mean by product expertise. Likewise, for example, consumer durable companies may be having salespersons only and only focusing on selling refrigerators and televisions and other household items. On the other hand, there could be other set of salesperson catering only to dealing only with sales of mobile handsets, which happens a lot with companies like Samsung, right? So here the salesperson expertise is basically decided on the basis of the product that they are able to sell. So this is one thing. Secondly, we have got market specialists. What do we mean by market specialists? Market specialists means those salespersons who know in and out of a particular area or of a particular market. So for example, there could be some of your salesperson who are catering only to the Uttarakhand area. So they would know about the Uttarakhand market, they would know about the demographic profile, they would know about the customer taste. So this is an example of market specialization, market expertise, right? So this is another thing which forms part of the sales management. Then we have got the territory design. Now what do we mean by the territory design? Let's say you are a company and you have got a sales force which is selling in a state like Uttarakhand. Now Uttarakhand has got a number of districts, right? And supposing you have 7 salespersons, so how are you going to assign them the area in which they would be making the sales? So for example, are you going to club Pithoragarh and Almora, 2 districts together, and then Nainital and Udham Singh together, and then Haridwar and Dehradun together? So this could be one type of territory design. Another type of territory design is maybe you are clubbing Pithoragarh along with Bageshwar and Dehradun along with Uttarkashi and Haridwar along with Udham Singh Nagar. So there can be different types of territory designs, and that is another thing that is taken care of by the sales management, right? So what would be the appropriate design? We'll be talking about different designs also. So what are the different kinds of design? There are different types of designs of the territory, so that also will have to be decided by sales management. That will also be included as part of the sales management. Then another thing that has to be taken care of is quota allocation. What do we mean by quota allocation? Quota is the target that you have set up for a particular salesperson. So that is what quota is all about. So how do you allocate the quota? So for example, if you have 5 salesperson, are you going to allocate them all the same quota? So let's say you are asking them all to sell 5 cars each in a particular month, so that would be same quota for all the salespersons. But it may not be a very good idea, because some of the salesperson might be very much experienced, and naturally their quota should be higher than the quota of those salespersons which are new to the field, new to the market, who are new to the company, who do not know much about the company products. So how are you going to decide this quota? There are salespersons who are at the fag end of their career. Maybe they might be hitting 50-55 years of age. So would the quota that would be assigned to them would be same as the quota which has been assigned to a very young salesperson who is just 25-28 years of old? Now this is what quota allocation decision is all about. So this is another thing that forms part of the sales management. And then sales force management. Now this is another thing that has to be decided, that has to be taken care of by sales management. And what are the various aspects that have to be taken care of? recruitment and selection. How are you going to recruit the salespeople for your sales force? How are you going to select them? I hope you know the difference and remember the difference between recruitment and selection. So what all sources of recruitment are you going to use, and what all selection tools, selection methods are you going to make use of? How are you going to train your salespeople? Now this is another thing that you'll have to think of. How are you going to motivate them? So there could be different ways of motivating them. For example, you could motivate them by showing them some kind of incentive. For example, you can motivate them by telling them that whosoever attains a particular quota, he or she would be sent on a tour, fully paid tour, fully company paid tour to a very well known tourist destination. It could be, let's say, Agra, it could be Delhi, it could be some place outside the country also. So this could be one way of motivating them. Or probably you would want to motivate them by making use of non-monetary rewards, like we have it in McDonald's. The best performer in the whole month, the photograph of that best performer in the whole month is taken and that is put up on the wall. So that could be another way of motivating the sales force. So there can be different ways. We'll be talking about motivation also in the coming lectures, specifically in Unit 5. Then how do you monitor and control them? Naturally, you have recruited and selected the sales force. Now you have to monitor the performance also, and because if they are not able to achieve their quota, if they are not able to achieve their target, the company will also not be able to achieve its target, and the company might have to incur loss. So we have to also monitor the performance of the sales people. And how do you go about this? How do you control your performance? How do you control their performance? How do you control what all activities do they do? Do they keep telecalling? Do they keep on calling up the customer rather than actually going and visiting them? Because that could be good to an extent, because that will help the salesperson reduce the traveling cost, but ultimately such telecalling may not result into sales. So how do you control this aspect of the sales force behavior, this aspect of the behavior of the salesperson? So probably you can come up with a control criteria that every single day a particular salesperson will have to visit 5 prospects, minimum of 5 prospects. So what would happen basically? The salesperson now has to visit at least 5 prospects. Prospects are those people who are likely to buy my product in future, and I have to basically convince them, and then they will start buying my product and they will turn into my customers. So this could be one way of controlling the actions of your salespeople. So now that you have set up this particular control criteria, now every salesperson will have to visit at least 5 prospects, and he will probably have to maintain a document, a record of that as well. So this could be one way of controlling their actions. So all these things again we are going to discuss in the coming units. And then performance appraisal. On what basis do you appraise the performance of your sales force? For example, let's talk about one particular salesperson who has been able to get you quite a significant chunk of sales. He has sold quite a number of items, but he has not been able to retain the earlier customers, the existing customers. So yes, he has sold a number of items, but he has not been able to retain the existing customers. The existing customers have not reordered from him, right? On the other hand, there is another salesperson who is not able to sell that much, but he has been able to retain his existing customers. Whom are you going to award higher performance rating? And are you going to award them the same performance rating? Is their performance at the same level? No, probably that is not the case, right? The one who is able to retain the customer, probably that particular salesperson is doing better for me. I think you would remember that we have discussed this particular point. It is always going to be more efficient. It is always going to be more economical for you to retain the existing customers. Is that making sense? So now this is one thing that again you'll have to take care of, how to appraise the performance and what on parameters to appraise the performance of your sales people. Fine. So this is the end of this session. In the coming session that we'll be discussing the various theories of personal selling. Thank you very much.